Right, verse 5. And for your lifeblood, I require a reckoning. From every beast, I require it, and from man. From his fellow man, I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. Okay, so God is here saying that he is the one who will require the reckoning from the beast and from man. So if one man kills another man, or if an animal kills a man, God is ultimately the one who will require the reckoning. Okay, yes, maybe our judges are the ones to send them, to give them a death sentence, send them to prison, etc. Right? But ultimately, we must remember that behind it all stands God. So if you sin, for example, you sin against God. If you kill man, you're not just killing that man, you're sinning against God. You're taking away someone that's made in the image of God. And in verse 6 we see this idea of that man, if you shed blood, then your blood will be shed. Okay, I know this is highly controversial again, right? The whole idea of the death penalty, where you are like executed, I mean not just sent for life in prison or something, but executed. Why is that? Is that allowed? Because we live in the New Testament, death is not necessary, or this way is not necessary anymore. Some Christians are against it, understandably lots of liberals who have no problem with killing babies inside their mother's wombs have a problem with this, which is totally contradictory. Anyhow, they will say that Christians who are for the death penalty is contradictory because it's not, because they don't understand, right? Like this is given by God. This is not a contradiction. Like with the eating of the meat, God gives it. As long as we don't eat, we're not doing anything wrong as we don't eat the blood, which is the life, right? Taking the life that belongs to God. In other words, stealing from God. If we kill a human, it's more. Just killing the human is as well as good as taking the life of that human. No need to eat the blood of the human. And therefore you are stealing from God, something that belongs to God and God alone. Life only belongs to God. Okay? And so morally, therefore, we are not allowed to kill any human beings, for the exception like God gives here. If one human sheds the blood of another human, you are allowed, and you have to actually shed the blood. So capital punishment, the death penalty, is something that is then justified, and it's justifiable because God told us to do it. Now people say it's a New Testament. Remember, Noah, the covenant with Noah, as God is going to make, is still a general covenant. It's made with all human beings, not just with some human beings. Because at this stage, all of humanity is now coming out of Noah and his sons, ultimately. Right? I mean, the sons came out of Noah, and out of them, well, the rest of humanity comes. So this is a general thing. This is not an Old Testament thing. This is not now stopped when Jesus came. The same way like the covenant with Adam didn't stop when Jesus came, right? We still get married. We're still supposed to keep the Sabbath, right? Those kinds of things. So the same thing here. This is a covenant made with all humankind, and actually all the animals, as we're going to see in this chapter. So it's still valid. Okay, so the death penalty is therefore justifiable, and it's necessary because God told us it needs to be done, because we're not supposed to shed the blood of others. We're not supposed to take the life of others because it belongs to God. Okay, so killing another human is stealing from God. That's just that. There's nothing worse than this. Verse 7. And you be fruitful and multiply. Increase greatly on the earth and multiply in it. Right? Again, a repetition of it. You can clearly see this is a very important thing. There's a reason for the repetition. Okay, because again, with the Tower of Babel, we're going to see that they're not going to follow it. They're going to stick in one city. They're not going to follow the earth, right, as they're supposed to do. Okay, so the Moses reminding the people over and over again of this command of God of being fruitful and multiplying is something that is going to literally in 2 chapters from now, as he's telling the story to his fellow people there in the desert on the way to the promised land, land of Canaan. Right? As he's telling the story, he is reminding them of what is coming soon. of how the people did not. They went against God. They went against His word. Okay, verse 8. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, Behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark. It is for every beast of the earth. Okay, so now this is the second covenant that God is making. I know not all agree with it. They don't see it because when it gets to Adam, it's not clearly stated. I already spoke of the covenant with Adam, right? But here clearly the words, everything, God is saying, I'm making a covenant. The Hebrew Brit. Okay, this is then the covenant name Yahweh, right? That God is going to use, which will give to Moses there in the desert, right, while he is looking after the sheep. Okay, so God is establishing this covenant, and because He established this covenant with him and with Noah, that is, and his offspring, we are offspring of Noah, so He's established with us as well. And not only that, but with every the birds flying around here, right, the other creeping animals around here, the lizards, the cow over there, okay. All these things are included in the covenant. The covenant is made with all of them. All as many as came out of the ark, every beast. Right? So ultimately nature is included in the covenant with God, right? Because God's not going to destroy it anymore. So it is kind of an important point, and again, remember this covenant is with everyone. So it's not stopped because Jesus came kind of idea, right? So God still is not going to destroy the earth with a flood again. Verse 11. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh be cut up by the waters of the flood. And never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. Okay, this is the first thing that God is promising. Okay, I will not do this again. I will not destroy the earth with a worldwide flood again. Yes, floods happen here where we are, the river here behind us. Every single year in the rainy season, it's flooding. The city sometimes up to the knee in covered in water. I mean, certain parts, not all of it, understandably, right? Sometimes to get to school or to wherever you want to go, you need to wade through water to get to church. You need to walk sometimes. Some people even maybe up to their stomach in water just to get out. And that's kind of a normal every year occurrence here. Okay, but a worldwide flood, no, that's not going to happen again because God promised. Verse 12. And God said, This is a sign of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Okay, so here God is giving now the sign of the covenant. Right? There's a covenant and there's a sign. So God first told them what He won't do. He won't destroy everything again. And the sign, right, to remind us of it, right? Not so much that God needs to be reminded of it, we need to be reminded of it. Every time we look into the sky and we see a rainbow, okay? Now, yes, the word they use here is not rainbow, it's just bow. Now, there's not a lot of bows in the sky that we can see that is not a rainbow. We can see just a bow and an arrow in the sky, okay? So it is, the sign is a rainbow, right? I know the rainbow has now been taken over by the alphabet soup, but yeah, we mustn't allow for that, and we need to take it back. But anyhow, but the word is that he uses bow.
So why a bow? Because it's a sign, the bow and the arrow, right? So the word they use here is not rainbow, it's a word for bow, okay? Because God as the warrior fighting against destroying, fighting against sin, fighting against humanity, recreating everything, because humanity was evil, humanity destroyed everything. Okay, so this is like God as a warrior. That is why the sign is like a bow. It reminds us, therefore, every time we see a rainbow, okay, what God did and the reason for it, our sin. Right? God destroyed everything because of our sin. But we are alive, therefore the grace of God. So every time we see a rainbow, it's not just, we need to thank God for the fact that He left some of us alive. Like he left Noah alive, so all of us can be. Okay, so they can be animals. Okay, so if you're greenie and say, oh, well, he could have let them die kind of idea, right? But then there wouldn't have been animals as well, so it would be nothing. But so praise God. So a rainbow is actually then a sign of the sin, just like the cross is a sign, the death of Jesus on the cross, a sign, same the rainbow, and at the same time it's a sign of grace. Praise God for that.